They stole crude oil to survive, but it nearly cost them their lives, their land, and their future. What turned a blessing to a curse? Could this be because of the crude? Can crude be termed to be a curse to the owners? No, the town ended up turning great. Listen, watch, and enjoy this interesting story. This is the untold story of pain, pollution, and powerful transformation. Today's story is quite interesting. Listen, watch, and enjoy. In the vast expanse of a once thriving coastal community, beneath the surface lay wealth beyond imagination. Crude oil, black crude oil. For generations, the people of this land, blessed with fertile soil and abundant seas, lived happily and peacefully, depending on farming and fishing to feed their families. But when the promise of wealth in the form of crude oil came, so did destruction. It started with hope. Rumors of oil wealth spread across the region, and foreign companies arrived, drilling deep into the earth. But for many of the local youth, there was no employment. They stood by, watching the crude flow, while their families struggled to survive, and so desperation took hold. Groups of boys, barely men, formed in the shadows. They stole the oil, siphoning it from pipelines, selling it in secret markets to feed their hungry bellies and clothe their siblings. They knew the risks, and they were too deep in the game to stop. It was for survival. It was surviving at its rawest form. But the cost was great. Many lost lives. Some met their fate in fiery explosions as makeshift refineries blew up without warning. The air was thick with the smell of burning oil, smoke rising into the sky like a black shroud over the town. Black suits everywhere. Those who didn't die from the blast were sometimes gunned down by their own friends in power struggle, fighting over the spoils of their dangerous trade. Others were unfortunate. It was a life lived on the edge where betrayal could come at any moment. Others that were fortunate still lived on but grew sick because they inhaled the deadly fumes from the crude oil day after day. And soon their bodies began to break down, cough turned into fits of choking, and their lungs, poisoned by the chemicals, began to give out. Their skin, once glowing with health, now turned black, not from the sun, but from the crude oil that soaked into their very being. They had become a reflection of the oil they stoked, darkened, corrupted, and broken. The town itself became a reflection of its people's suffering. Soot from the illegal refineries filled the air, settling on rooftops, on crops, on the land itself. Black clouds blotted out the sky, and the sun was a distant memory. When the rains came, they weren't the life-giving rains of old. These were black rains, thick with oil and chemicals, destroying crops, poisoning the rivers, and turning the once fertile lands into barren wastelands. Fish pots, once bustling with life, stood empty, their waters contaminated by the oil slicks that had zipped into the shore. The people weren't the people were starving, and the land was which was once blessed had become cursed. The town was drowning, not in water but in crude oil. Yet, even in the darkest times, hope found a way. Amidst the chaos, a group of wise elders, those who remember the time before oil, came forward. There were men and women who had watched the community unravel, who had seen the toll the crude had taken on their people. They knew that the boys weren't to blame. They were only trying to survive in a world that had abandoned them. But they also knew that this path led only to death and destruction. They gathered the boys together one by one and told them a story of their town and what it could become. They spoke of unity, of protecting the oil, not stealing it, of channeling their strength into building a future where everyone could thrive, of getting educated so they can use the crude oil resource in a more profitable way. The boys listened. They saw the wisdom in the words of their elders, and slowly they began to change. It wasn't easy, as old habits die hard, and the lure of quick money was still strong. But one by one, they put down their tools of destruction and picked up the tools of rebuilding. They became protectors, not destroyers. They formed community groups to guard the oil, ensuring that it would no longer be stolen but used for the good of all. They worked with companies demanding jobs and fair wages, and in return, they gave the town peace. The town began to heal. As the illegal mining stopped, the pollution began to clear. The black clouds that had once blocked the sky thinned and drifted away, replaced by the blue sky. The people had long forgotten the land, poisoned by oil, began to breathe again. Clean rains fell, washing away the soot, and crops began to grow once again. The fish returned to the pots, and the sea was alive again. With this new sense of purpose, development came swiftly. The town, once on the brink of collapse, found itself at the center of attention. Investors came, drawn by the promise of oil wealth, now safely managed. Roads were built, connecting the once isolated town to the rest of the world. Schools opened their doors, providing education for the next generation, and hospitals began to treat the sick, healing the scars left by years of pollution and neglect. The boys who had once been thieves became leaders. They were no longer stealing crude to survive, but working with the leaders of the states to protect it. During the every during ensuring that everyone could benefit from the wealth beneath their feet. The town, once covered in black, now shined with prosperity. It had become the richest in the region, a beacon of hope for other towns that had suffered the same fate. But the greatest wealth wasn't in the oil itself, it was in the transformation of the people. They had learned that survival wasn't just about taking, it was about building, protecting, and caring for each other. The elders' wisdom had saved them, and in return, they had saved their town. Today, the coastal town stands tall, a symbol of what can happen when a community comes together. The black crude that had once caused them pain was now a blessing, and their story serves as a reminder that even in the darkest of time, there is always hope. Did this story move you? Then don't stop here. Make sure to like, subscribe to African-Tale and drop a comment below. I want to hear what touched you most in this story. But wait, there is more. If you watch 10 of our stories, be rest assured that if you subscribe, like, drop a comment on at least 10 out of the stories, or 19 if you wish, you stand a chance to win a free Nigerian African cookbook. You can leave a comment by dropping your email address so we can send that to you. But don't forget, you need to watch 10 of these stories and be subscribing to this channel to get that. Leave a comment on all the stories you watched. You will be eligible to get this free African Nigerian cookbook. This is our way of saying thank you to all our subscribers and those that watch our stories. And thank you for sustaining our African Story channel, sustaining our culture and our community. So watch, comment, subscribe, and start your journey towards winning a delicious reward. Much love from African-Tale. Here are some moral lessons for the story. Organizations should take care of their host communities, providing jobs, skills, and education scholarships to indigenes. This will help prevent some of these vices. In this case, this type of crude oil vandalization of pipelines, etc. The people should resist the urge to resort to certain measures in a bid to solve their problems. This is because it may lead to death and it will affect the community and the country as a whole and portray the image of the country or people in a bad light. So the urge to resort to certain self-help measures that are detrimental to the society, the country, and organizations should be highly resisted. In this story, you find out that the youths listen to their elders. So leaders have a role to play in all communities for the growth and prosperity of the community and the society at large. There is a clear call for leaders to be responsible and wise to assuage the grievances where applicable of the people so as to diffuse any form of anger or stress, just like these leaders did. The youths also should listen. The people should listen to their leaders when they reason with them, especially if it's for the good of all. There are so many moral lessons in this story. You can add one or two in your comment. Let's learn and grow together.